you very much, Dr. Wong. I'm really inspired by Professor Yao's vision to nurture the next generation, and I hope to share with you my very humble journey through my scientific journey. We all wear many hats every day, and I wear three hats. The first hat is as a doctor and a professor at the Chinese Institute of Hong Kong. I'm a gastroenterologist and I see patients. The second hat is as a scientist and teacher of students in my laboratory. And the third hat is recently I've co-founded two biotech companies in this area. The first lesson I've learned in life is do not what you like only, but what you love. And exactly, I think passion drives scientific innovation. Let me tell you about my family. My great-grandfather came from Xiamen and migrated to Malaysia. When he was about 12, this is my grandfather. His father died, so he worked as a shopkeeper. He made only about $3 at that time. Half a dollar he gave to his mother. The other two and a half, basically, he used to feed himself. When my grandfather was 20, he met my grandmother, so they got married. And they had seven children, six boys and one girl. That girl was actually my mother. So during those times, my mother never had the opportunity to higher education. So she had one dream, and that dream is to give her daughter the education she never did have. Actually, my grandfather was amazing. He opened an antique shop, and when he was 90 years old, he was still guiding the top front of the shop. And he used to cycle to bank in checks at the age of 90. They were married for 60 years, and this was them actually. And although sadly, my grandfather passed away when he was in his 90s a couple of years ago, the one lesson I learned is that as any scientist, as any person, success is more than reaching our goals. It's really living our values. And I think try not to be just a person of success, but one of value, the value of science, the impact that you can create in life. And I think this is a value I take away from my family. In my early years, I love watching the stars. I always think, there are so many stars that we don't have names for, and what are they? Who are they? What do they do? And this you will come and see resonate with my research later on in life. The other thing I love doing is solving these little dots that 1 to 20, and you see the amazing figure that appear. And I think solving problems and curiosity drives research later in life. This was me, 1982, when I graduated from kindergarten. Actually, my mother said I've already read all the encyclopedias in my grandfather's house, although I have no idea what they were. I just look at the pictures. But one of the things was that I always wonder, scientific discovery, is it by chance or is it that you have to work hard? And my mom then said, oh, you finished reading all these books. You must be born for great things. But then which mother wouldn't tell their child that, right? So in 1993, I decided to study medicine. So I went to the UK and I went to one of the oldest medical school called St. Bartholomew's Hospital in London. And I think this is where inspiration comes from. I think to be a doctor, if for those who are interested to be, clinicians, you can think about some of these characters from knowledge, expertise to compassion, empathy, as well as to interpersonal and team skill work. But the second lesson I've learned throughout my medical career is sometimes one yes can open new doors. You just have to be prepared for the opportunity. Because in the early 20s, I ended up in a hospital called St. Mark's Hospital. This hospital is the only one that specialized in the gut, essentially from all your mouth all the way down to your anus. This is a hospital. If you have any problem to do with your chong wai, you just go there. And there I met my mentor, Professor Michael Kahn, a world-class gastroenterologist. And one day I was in the corridor and he said to me, Sue, do you want to do a PhD? And I was thinking it's very hard to say no to him, although at that time, initially, I just wanted to be a doctor. I never thought about doing science. But because of that one yes, I said, okay. He then referred me to this world-class immunologist, Stella Knight, who spent 40 years of her life studying just one cell in the human body. This cell actually is a dendritic cell, and it got the Nobel Prize in 2011. So I spent 3 years, my PhD, understanding this cell in the middle. It's called the dendritic cell. They call it the conductor of the immune orchestra. It actually governs your immune system to see if you get sick or if you remained well. And I always thought back, what was my life as a scientist working in the lab? I was facing the flow cytometer in the sort of machine. In the daytime, I would take samples from a patient. At night, I will be in front of the machine working until about sort of midnight. Then there was one time, my first taste as a clinician scientist was quite inspiring. I was so excited because I saw this cell, a dendritic cell, that was sticking its arm into the lumen of the gut, trying to sample bacteria. And in this patient, we now know we can perhaps use certain ways to treat a patient with inflammation in the gut in a 20-year-old man. And this will come back to my research interest later on. So imagine inside the gut, you can see the dendritic cell and immune cell trying to capture all these pathogens or bacteria. It's like when we're young, you're playing Pac-Man, and if it captures the right bacteria, it may influence a right immune system and you don't get sick. So in my mind, I think people and place are very important. You need to think, do the people inspire you? Do they have a track record? Do this place provide you with the opportunities you deserve? Does it foster the skills you don't have? And can you see yourself flourish in this place? It may not be the first, it may not be your last stop. So I got my PhD from Imperial College in 2009. And at that time, all I wanted to do is stay in England and then continue to be a consultant and a scientist. But for those of you who watch this movie, Forrest Gump said, Mama always said, life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Something else happened in my lifetime. In 2003, I think many of the students were not born yet at that time. A tragic hit Hong Kong, and that was the first SARS accident. This is the Prince of Wales Hospital. Many people died, many of my colleagues died. There I actually met, I was in England, and there was a broadcast of a scenario from the Prince of Wales Hospital. That very person was Professor Joseph Song. He actually was a SARS hero. He broadcast and show us that, look, there's a dirty team and there's a clean team. I'm the dirty team. I never know next time when I'll be the culprit or the victim because we don't really know much about the virus at that time. And I thought, wow, this is really, really sort of inspiring. So with a lot of chance, serendipity, I end up enjoying the Faculty of Medicine at the Chinese University of Hong Kong in 2010. So at that time, I wanted to do research on inflammatory bowel disease. Inflammatory bowel disease is a Western disease, actually. It's not happening in Asia yet. Not many people see it. We don't really know what causes it. Then Professor Song told me inflammatory bowel disease, when I was a medical student, we don't see it in Hong Kong. How are you going to study about this condition? So I think selecting a research field needs to suit your timing and suit you. And I think an area you pick is important if it's a common problem, if it's emerging, if it has severe consequences, if it will change clinical practice, if it can be translated to the patient, to your home. If it's not too competitive, ideally, you might have first move advantage. So when I first thought I wanted to study this condition, we don't see it in Hong Kong. Then I went to Shanghai probably about, I don't know, 20 years ago, and I was struck by what I see. You look at the amount of fast food that is happening, processed food there is not how it used to be. So everyone was studying the genetics of this disease at that time because they think it may be the genetic change that caused this condition to be more common. But I was thinking, for a new disease to appear in a new society, our DNA does not change in 10 years, 20 years. It takes, centuries to change. It must be something else happening in the environment to our bacteria, the nurture part that may cause the disease to increase. So I then went to Wuhan to study. Actually, Wuhan was not as famous as it is now after what happened with the pandemic. And we described in Wuhan the first prospective study to document that this Western disease is now coming to China, to Asia. We are seeing more and more of it in young people. So when Nature sort of interviewed me, I said, look, there's so many cases of inflammatory bowel disease, we could really hardly keep up with the number of cases. They are exploding. So we called this the inflammatory bowel disease tsunami. And we then asked, how do we transit from just a few cases in the West now to the second wave we are seeing in Asia, which is escalating rapidly? So I thought, look, I wanted to go to rural areas of China where the condition is still quite rare and then compare with people living in mega cities, what's different in their lifestyle, in their diet, in their microbiome that may actually lead to this change. So in 2010, as a one-man band, nobody really studying the microbiome at that time. I then took a team and visited up to about 19 countries and regions, basically. And we formed one of the largest consortium to try to study this condition. So I think unity is important and bigger groups are really, really important. Because of that, foundations in the United States actually, for the first time, started to fund our research at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And they funded 3 projects. And this is the first time a United States foundation actually gave us money to look into a newly emerging disease. So recently, at the Chinese Institute of Hong Kong, we started a global physician stream program. It's about a decade now, and want to bring up the next generation of clinician scientists, clinician leaders, and clinician engineers. I think for the students, it's actually fantastic that there are now a lot of opportunities to think about expanding your global network as well as scientific discovery journey. Then back to my interest. You may remember I said when I was young, I loved to look at stars. So one day I was in the United States and I saw a professor say something very interesting. There are 100 billion stars in our galaxy, but there are 40 trillion microbes inside your body. For example, there are 30 trillion human cells, but there are 39 trillion microbial cells. So if I count the number of cells in your body, you're only 43% human. But if you think about maybe I don't care about cells, I'm more interested in the DNA of the human. We have 20,000 human genes, but we have 20 million microbial genes. If I look at your DNA, you are only 1% human. The 99% of your DNA belongs to your 微生态, your microbiome. And this 99% are the ones you can change. You can't change the 1% DNA that your parents give you or inherit, but the rest of them you can. So this is a new frontier. We are moving from our DNA to our other genome. And now we know changes in your microbiome are related to many diseases, cancer, dementia, obesity, chronic pain, COVID, even eczema as well. So I started building a network to tackle these 40 trillions of bacteria, viruses, yeast, fungi inside the human gut. This is a pair of twins, identical. One is obese and one is thin. Just think about it. Their DNA should be the same. But when I look into the microbiome, they're very different. If I take the stool from a fat twin, basically, and put into the mice become obese. If I take the microbiome from a lean twin and put it in the mice remain lean. So there's a lot of implications you can think about for potential treatment. Then in 2013, a very interesting landmark breakthrough came through. An old therapy becomes alive. It's called 粪便移植反病移植. This found that if you take the stool of someone and you put it into someone who is very sick, who has recurrent C. diff infection, they got better. Who invented fecal microbiota transplantation? A, B, C, D, E. Just have a think. It's actually the Chinese. It came from our 祖先. In those days, there's something called 黄龙汤, which is fecal soup that helped to treat food poisoning. So about 8 years ago, an 80-year-old man came to me very desperate. He had this condition in the gut that caused him to poo blood and have diarrhea. He cannot leave his house for 3 years. And he said, can you experiment this on me? So I took the stool from his son, who is 20 years healthy. I blend it. I'm sorry, after this, you're not going to drink chocolate milkshake or coffee frappuccino again. And we used this treatment through endoscopy into this sick 80-year-old man. 6 hours later, he called me and said, "Yi San, I want to 同你鞠躬 because for the first time I can see normal stool and I can leave the house." He's an artist. He's a book writer. He's now in his 80s. He does book exhibition. And he wrote me a poem. He said, 10年变血一变搞掂, 10年变血一变搞掂, which means basically, he's been having blood in the stool for so long. So this is the gut of what it looks like, very, very ulcerated. And after the treatment, you can see it got much better, completely nice and new now. So in 2019, together with the chief executive, with the ITC Sun Dong, we were very honored to receive and build the first Center Magic that works in microbiome. And we are very thankful to the ITB for giving this opportunity. Then together with my co-founder, Professor Francis Chien, in 2010, we thought, why don't we open a company so that the discovery we make can become more impactful? So we wrote our business proposal actually on a piece of napkin at that time. And we wanted initially to use this proposal and make it into a pill to actually treat different diseases. The investor asked us, "What's your business model? Are you asking people to eat poo-poo to treat them?" So our business was actually rejected at that time. And then suddenly, 2019, COVID came, and I stopped my venture. I was working as a frontline doctor at the Prince of Wales Hospital. We see a lot of patients coming in very sick. But then I made an observation. A same age patient can be very sick with COVID. Another person can have no problems when they come in, even with COVID. So I thought it must be their immune system, must be their gut microbiome. So we started looking at what's the problem with these patients who are very sick, and we found certain bacteria that's missing in their gut. And at that time, YHSA already said, look, you can maybe change the microbiome to give probiotics to help these people. So very, very quickly, in just a couple of weeks, we published the first evidence that COVID-19 also has some change in their bacteria, and we can do something to actually help these people. So we developed SIM01. This is available in different parts of China as well as in Hong Kong to boost immunity. And we did 2 randomized controlled trials to help these people, to help boost their immunity, to reduce their complications from COVID-19. So to me, this is rewarding. This is scientific discovery to, for the first time, technology transfer. So now we have 2 biotech companies trying to translate some of this knowledge transfer. This is now being run in Guangzhou, in Beijing, in Hong Kong, Macau, and different parts of the world. We now have a stool test that can detect polyps before it becomes cancer, because this is important. Prevention is better than cure. We now work in the microbiome because we know it communicates with your brain. So we have a test in the stool that can detect children with 自闭症 autism, because many of these children are not diagnosed because there's no gold standard test. So here we can think about scientists going with early diagnostic using a stool test. This has got FDA breakthrough device designation as the first-in-class precision test for autism, and we hope to launch it in Hong Kong, different parts of China, and globally. So last but not least, in the last 1 minute, my clinician scientist entrepreneur journey. I was very, very privileged to get the Bank of China Science and Innovation Technology Award, and of course to be the first female clinician scientist to get the New Cornerstone by Tencent. New Cornerstone Foundation has supported a lot of my work, and of course the Hong Kong's Academy of Science. So in the last 30 seconds, recently someone asked me, what do you want to do now? You've done so much. I'm interested in aging, the science behind aging. We now know the secret to a super long life may lie in your microbiome. This is a 100-year-old Japanese lady. when you look into a microbiome, you find distinct microbiome that can produce unique bile acids that help her stay so fit and so well. So people are banking blood. Why not bank stool? Because your stool, when you're still healthy now, later on may help you later in life. So we are building a microbiomes vault in the Greater Bay Area so that we can collect, preserve, as well as help people when they need it. So last but not least, to churn poo-poo, become bugs, and become drugs, and to do tailored medicine for these individuals. So these will be a tailored microbiome pill that can help different kinds of diseases. And lastly, also a smart toilet. We're going to, people hate collecting stool, collecting poo-poo because it's messy. So in the future, we are working with engineers. You can sit in the comfort of your home. It can actually monitor your gut health and tell you your risk of different diseases. So to complete why I chose this path, because I get to meet amazing people from different parts of the world. I get to be in the stimulus of cutting edge science, and I have the opportunity to be creative and innovative in my practice. If you are interested to be a scientist, these are a few of the criteria I think it might be useful to think about when you carry on your scientific journey. This was when I shared in Shenzhen. I was inspired by the students. They asked intelligent questions. There were 10,000 of them sitting in the audience. And I think mingling with them helped me improve myself. I can be here today because I've seen further by standing on the shoulders of giants, and I want to thank my mentors. But all of these can only be possible. So I think we have to be grateful as scientists, be grounded. My mom didn't give me too much. She only gave me the one thing I need in life, education. So for me to go this far. So my last slide, my message to every one of you, dream big, pursue your dream, innovate boldly, and don't be afraid to fail. And the next time you're in the toilet trying to flush away your stool, just think about this. This one sample may be the one that saved your life because there's some magic inside it. It's been an honor, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share.